Imagine spending 39 years in prison for a crime you didn't commit, until the person whose testimony sent you behind bars proved your innocence. This story will shock you. This is the story of Ricky Jackson, a man from Cleveland, Ohio, whose life was derailed by a wrongful conviction. In 1975, at age 18, Ricky was accused of murdering a money order salesman based on a child's false testimony. Sentenced to death, he spent nearly 4 decades behind bars before new evidence set him free in 2014. How did this injustice happen, and what kept him going? In May 19, 1975, Harold Franks, a businessman in Cleveland, Ohio, was shot and killed during an attempted robbery. Police quickly arrested 18-year-old Ricky Jackson and 2 other black men, brothers Ronnie and Wiley Bridgman, based entirely on the testimony of a 12-year-old boy, Edward Eddie Vernon, who claimed to have witnessed Jackson shoot local businessman Harold Franks outside a grocery store in Cleveland, Ohio, leading to their convictions. With no physical evidence tying Jackson or the Bridgman brothers to the scene, cops relied entirely on Vernon's testimony, with it later emerging that they had coached the youngster to say what they wanted in court to ensure conviction. Jackson's sentence was later changed to life in prison in 1977. Jackson spent nearly 4 decades in some of Ohio's toughest prisons. He always maintained his innocence. Over time, his story began to gain attention thanks to investigative journalists and the Ohio Innocence Project. In 2013, Vernon, now an adult, came forward, recanted his testimony, and admitted he was sat on a school bus blocks away from the shooting when it unfolded. His recantation opened the door to reinvestigation. In 2014, prosecutors dropped all charges, and Ricky Jackson walked free after 39 years. Ricky's case exposes a justice system riddled with flaws. Coerced testimony, like Vernon's, played key roles, with studies showing poor legal defense often seals innocent fates. Since 1989, over 3,200 wrongful convictions have been overturned, yet many more may linger. Ricky's freedom came at a steep cost. How can we fix a system that fails so many? Freed at 57, Ricky Jackson revealed that following his arrest in 1975, the first and only of his life, prosecutors offered him a deal to plead guilty to murder for a reduced sentence. But he said he just couldn't do it, and decided to fight his case in court and clear his name, ultimately leading to his 4-decade ordeal and struggle to prove his innocence. "I was under so much pressure to plead guilty," he recalled. "Police beat me, woke me up at night, told me I'd burn like a pig. They told me I'd get out sooner. But how could I plead guilty to what I didn't do? The only vindication I needed was to not be a killer, so I couldn't take the deal." His refusal to plead guilty was a fateful one, as his trial resulted in a death sentence and decades on death row, which included long stints in solitary confinement. When he was freed, Jackson's release raised eyebrows as he received just $2 million from the state as compensation for his wrongful imprisonment. After speaking with reporters, a decade on from his release from prison, Jackson gleefully said at the end of the interview he was picking up his young daughter from school and said he would never believe how his life turned out. "I spent 39 years in anger and loneliness," he said, "but I have an opportunity to be better. Otherwise, it's just prison all over again." After Vernon recounted his testimony and ensured Jackson's release, many believed he would hold a grudge against a man whose actions as a preteen sent him behind bars. But Jackson instead forgave Vernon, and he was one of the first people he saw on the outside, capturing headlines as the 2 men embraced each other, while Jackson tearfully forgave him. Looking back on the moment, he said, "I was embracing my new destiny, and I had to forgive those responsible. I hated Eddie Vernon for years, but there was a lot I didn't know," he continued, noting how Vernon said police pressured and coerced him into giving the damning testimony. "The police kidnapped this kid, just like me," he added. Recalling his first days of freedom, Jackson said he found it difficult to navigate his way around a new world, including having never previously used a cell phone. "People would call me and I'd keep accidentally hanging up by hitting the wrong number," he said. Ricky added that the sheer number of phones were the first things he noticed, as everybody was always on the phone. Nobody was paying any attention. While spending a decade behind bars for a murder they didn't commit would send most people mad, Jackson said he came out with a sense of thankfulness that he still gets to enjoy life. He said he often visits schools and prisons to tell his life story. adding, "I try to tell them that despite everything you're going through, keep going. I grew up with the same adversity as these kids, and I tell them you have to believe your destiny. Nobody ever told them that," he said. The story of Jackson's exoneration was profiled in the 2022 documentary, Lovely Jackson, which detailed how he clung to the truth of innocence for almost 4 decades. An executive producer on the film, Jason Flom, a criminal justice advocate who co-founded Lava for Good and hosts his own podcast, Wrongful Conviction, on the platform, told journalists that Jackson's story is an inspiration. He had an experience that none of us could even begin to imagine, and somehow he survived to the other side with gratitude, he said. In Ricky's case, Jason said he was drawn to covering the inmate because not only was there a lack of evidence of guilt, there was compelling evidence of innocence. A lot of people just assume that when someone is in prison they deserve to be there, but social scientists put the number of innocent people in prisons at between 4 and 7% conservatively, he said. Jason re-released Lovely Jackson in New York City late September 2024 to mark National Wrongful Conviction Day, and said it is shocking that it even still exists in this country. Could you forgive the system that stole 39 years of your life? Tell us in the comments, and subscribe for more real stories of justice and redemption. Thanks for watching.